record. So welcome everybody to the Monday Mojo Dream Crew call. We are super excited to have a special guest tonight. Amber Dillon is joining us. Amber, I believe, is on Heidi's team. Yeah. Yes. And Heidi was bragging all about her and how I'm going to let her sort of tell you her story, but really sharing about how she used the training in the back office to do a virtual tasting. So Amber, if you wouldn't mind just starting out telling us sort of how long you've been with One Hope, kind of what you do, what your goals are, et cetera, and then kind of how you came to use this training. And then I would love it if you would share with us.
Sure. Thank you for inviting us. Like Lori said, we're joining your team call because we are on Heidi's team, Pouring for Purpose, and Julie Moore is my upline. And so she and Andrea are on the call, and they've been incredibly helpful. I joined One Hope in the summer of last year, and my intention was to partner with my husband, who works with realtors, and to really market some of the shimmer bottles. And then we immediately found out we were pregnant, and things really got a little sidetracked. It was a bit uncomfortable working with wine when I couldn't be drinking it. So we took a little bit of a hiatus, and then had the opportunity to work with one of my coworkers who every year participates in the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention in honor of her late daughter. And she asked if I could help her with some fundraising, and I figured it was a really great cause to be supporting and a great friend to support. And at the time when we decided to schedule the training, the virtual wine tasting template had just come out. So just really a perfect situation for my first event. And with Julie and Andrea's help, I was able to access the training. And then I actually started to update some of the slides to make it more personal for our event, and was able to curate a bingo game. And we just had a really great time. It was myself, my host, Crystal, in the same room, two of her friends. We ordered the tasting flights for them, and they were able to cheers one another as we went through the different slide decks. And then we had a couple people that were on a Facebook meeting group as well. So I was able to share my screen and kind of walk through, but the slides were incredibly helpful because as it was my first One Hope event and it was a virtual event, I could really use them to kind of walk through the process and the different types of wine. And Julie was there to support me throughout the process. So if anyone had questions I couldn't answer, I had a resource right at my fingertips, which was wonderful.
Awesome. So I neglected to introduce Julie and Andrea, but I think you did a nice job. So yeah, if you would like to just sort of move through your presentation using the slides, I think that would be great. I know Amber's going to share her screen with us. And I think maybe let's start also by telling folks where exactly in the training center they can find these slides.
Sure. So I created a little cheat sheet. Hopefully you can see my Word document. So when you log into your CE back office or dashboard, you obviously have the toolbar to the left and the option to go into the training center. And what I did was I searched for the wine guide for virtual events, and the first thing to pop up is the 2022 wine guide that was just released. So you can click on that directly, and then it will take you to a course outline, which includes a video that walks you through the slide decks, how to use them, but also gives you a number of options for how to download the slides. So you can use Google Slide, PowerPoint, PDF, or images. But if you're using an images or PDF version, you can't edit the slide deck. So what I had done was download the PowerPoint version, and I just saved a copy to my desktop so I could personalize it. The other way that you can access it is similarly to going through your training center. You can actually go right into the learning library. And when you click on that, one of the first options is going to be the 2022 virtual wine tasting guide. So it's pretty easy to get to. I just think that the search functionality works a little better because I sometimes forget where the heck I put things. So the training, like I said, does include a video on how to actually utilize the slide deck, though they don't go into too much detail about how to make edits. So that's what I'm hoping to share tonight. So once you download it, it is a very large file. It's currently 62 slides, and it does take a while. So as it's downloading, don't get discouraged. I know that for me, it took about a minute just to download and then to allow it to save. And so I saved it to the desktop. And as you walk through the slides that are provided to us, they actually give you instructions on how to use the slides. So they talk about the One Hope backstory, they talk about the winemakers, the founding team, and they give you a lot of instructions, which is probably not something you want to be sharing with your host and the people attending your event directly, because it's a lot of busy sort of fluff stuff, lots of really good information for you, but not necessarily pretty to look at. So what I started to do is if you right click on the slide, you can actually choose delete slide and then just remove it completely from the deck. What you'll notice is at the bottom of each of the slides, and it's going to be hard for me to scroll, I think. You can see here, there are actually notes that correspond with the slides themselves. So when you are giving your presentation to anyone who's participating, you can put this in slideshow presenter mode, and you'll be able to see all of the notes at the bottom of the slide while you're displaying the slide itself. And so in order to do that, move this Zoom toolbar. At the top of the slide deck, there's an option for slideshow. And you can actually choose the slideshow setting from the beginning or from current slide. And then you just click right through the different options. So to get out of that, you're just going to escape on the keyboard. That's that top left corner. And then you're back into your editing mode. So what I had done was read through all of the slides. Again, there's a lot of really good information, but I decided to delete anything that I didn't think was relevant to presenting to the larger group. So again, just right click, delete slide. And then I kept anything that I thought would be helpful or would just be a reminder of something that I wanted to talk about, including the One Hope backstory and how everyone got started, because I think it's really powerful to start there and really explain who One Hope is. And then as you move through the different slide options, there are a lot of slides specific to the different types of wine. And in my conversation with my host, we had discussed that some of them were going to be ordering the tasting flight. And so I actually only included slides related to the wine that would be tasted at that time. And I thought that was a good way to narrow the slide deck down, because again, it's 62 slides to start, but also to focus on what was actually happening in the room. My host's favorite was actually the rosé, and I knew that going in. I had asked her what her preference was. And so I made sure that that slide deck was highlighted as one of the first wines that we would taste as a group. And so what I had done is, if you find the rosé slides, you can shift and click And you can actually move them by just grabbing them and sliding them further up into the deck, wherever you'd like to place them. So that as you're going through the presentation, you're going in an order that makes sense to you and to your host. So once I had kind of figured out which slides I wanted to use and what I thought would be most appropriate, one of the things I thought was really important was to highlight the cause that we were supporting and to give my host an opportunity to speak about why we were all there to begin with. And so if you're in the sidebar where you can choose different slides, you can actually go to Insert and then New Slides. And what's really great about this deck is that OneHope already included slide templates that match their presentation. So you can choose whatever type of slide you'd like to add, and it'll flow really nicely with the look of all of the other slides. And so I picked, say, this one. And I could go in and I could update the 501c3 we were working with, which happened to be the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And my host was Kathy, or Crystal, I'm sorry. Her daughter is Kathy. And I was able to add a blurb about why we're here. And I did so by actually taking her words. So I asked her if she could explain why this particular organization was important to her, and I simply copied and pasted it right out of an email that I had gotten. So when it was all said and done, my slide deck went from 62 slides to 23, which still sounds like a lot, but it moved pretty quickly. So I started on their opening slide, and I moved right into the host slide. So I talked about Team Caring for Kathy, which is my friend Crystal's team. As a part of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, they do overnight walks. They do a lot of fundraising. They have a really ambitious goal of reducing the rate of suicide by 20% within the next 3 years. So it's something she's really proud of to be a part of. And we worked on this slide together. And then I moved right into how we give, how OneHope is going to be contributing to this organization through everyone's participation within the event. And then I talked a little bit about the OneHope backstory and the founders. And then I moved right into our first tasting. And again, because my host favors rosé, that's what I wanted to start with. There are two options when you choose your wine tasting slides. They have one that just has the overview of the wine itself, but they also have some where Mari speaks to them, so you can play a recording. Because I was doing a hybrid where there were some people in the room with me and some people online, I wasn't comfortable using the recording because I was afraid there was going to be feedback. So just as I had shown you to right click and delete the slide, I had gotten rid of anything that had any kind of video recording because I wanted us to be able to focus on one thing at a time. And then I wanted to make sure that everyone felt like they were engaged and that they were able to participate so that it didn't feel like it was just a bunch of us in a room and a bunch of us online. And so my host is a big bingo fan. And so what I did was I inserted, after our first tasting, once we had just gotten things going, I inserted what I called a bingo break. And so I know people do like guess the corks or different trivia type things, but for my host and for myself, who I work a regular corporate job, we do team building, and bingo just seems to be an easy thing that everyone can agree on the rules. So we chose bingo, and in doing so, I actually just created a list of wine-related words, and I put them on the screen, and I gave directions to all participants that they should fill out a bingo sheet, but not in the order that I had written them. And that was important because as we were going to be picking those words, I wanted to make sure not everybody had them in the same order, or everyone would have bingo all at once. So after I gave them a couple of minutes to create their bingo sheets, we moved on to the next tasting, which was part of the wine flight, and that was the Sparkling Brut. So I asked for feedback and made sure everybody liked it. I talked about the happiness guarantee, and then after the Sparkling Brut had been tasted by everyone, we went to our first bingo break. And at that time, I just selected 5 of those bingo words and I called them out and hoped for someone to hit. I had told them at the beginning that we would be playing the game, and I had also told them that there would be prizes. And so what I had done in partnership with my host was decide we were going to gift a $25 gift card to One Hope. And so the purchase of that was going to be made through the fundraising link. So we would get credit for that. But then whomever had won it was going to want to use that $25 gift card and make a purchase. So we'd get a second round of purchases. And while $25 is significant, we know that most of our orders are going to be over that. So we were going to bring a little bit of extra PCV, but also some extra money for the organization itself. So no one got bingo on the first round, and we moved right into the next tasting. And then at that time, I hadn't wanted to jump directly into wine club because I didn't want to spend too much time up front focusing on all of the different things. I really wanted everyone to feel like we were involved in having a conversation. So I added the wine club smack in the middle of our tasting so that as they were starting to like the different wines and get an understanding of the different options that were available to them, you know, people were starting to be like, oh, that tastes good, and that's probably the one that I'm going to order. So that's when I thought was an appropriate time to discuss wine club. And then another bingo break. So we kept switching between tastings and bingo breaks as we moved through. And eventually someone was able to get bingo. So once we moved through all the tastings, I had created a slide where I had just gone to insert at the top. New slide. I think I picked this one. And I just copy and pasted One Hope images that I had found online or through some of the marketing materials that they provide. And I made myself a little collage. And there's nothing super specific about these pictures. It was just enough to remind me that we had just won a double gold. And we had gift cards available if you weren't interested in making a purchase for yourself. You know, in my case, I can't drink wine at the moment. So if someone gifting me wine, probably not the best case scenario. But in about 5 weeks, when this baby is due, I'm going to be putting something like that to good use. And then I wanted to highlight the fact that there are other options that are non-alcoholic. So we have gift sets where you can gift something like our Paulson gift set where you can include a bottle of wine, but somebody can use the non-alcoholic pieces. I wanted to mention the shimmer bottles, so I had an opportunity to talk about the logo, which is something that I was originally interested in when I signed up for One Hope. And then I also wanted to talk about how if you've enjoyed this and you've had fun and you'd like to do something like this, I am a cause entrepreneur and you're welcome to ask me questions about that, join our team. And at that time, I had reintroduced Julie, and so there's lots of support, and we have a lot of fun together doing all of these events. And then I basically thanked everyone for coming and moved right into a slide where I was able to put all of my information directly on the screen. So I didn't want to use a personal email account. My husband works in marketing. It's very easy for him to create a non-personal email address. I don't think that's necessary, but I was able to throw my information up and I said, you know, I will hang out here for a little while longer. So if you have questions about the ordering process and you want to walk through that, text me and I'll give you a call, or shoot me an email and I'll be sure to answer you sometime later tonight. And so overall, that was how I had used the slide deck. But what I thought was also worth mentioning is when I had given them instructions to create a bingo card, I had actually provided them with one as well. So I had created a bingo sheet that was just a blank grid with the One Hope logo in the center. So when you play bingo, there's normally a free space. I had included the 501c3's logo at the top so everyone knew what we were gathering for. And then I included my contact information at the bottom. And since we were meeting on Facebook, I had actually just taken a screenshot of this and loaded it to the Facebook event page and told everyone to print it out and have it ready with, you know, their glass of wine and a pen for when the event got started. And after I had created the event on Facebook and the host and I had started inviting people, I put the direct link to the 501c3 so they could do their own research. I put the link to the One Hope fundraiser, and I made them a separate post. So I wanted it to be very clear how to get to each different piece. And just like I had created a little cheat sheet for myself and how to find the training guide and the virtual event slide deck, I had basically created a cheat sheet for them of how to log into the Facebook event and how to actually access the link. I personally had never used Facebook events prior. I don't know that I would necessarily use it again, to be honest. It was a little difficult. Some of the guests had trouble logging in, and so I will, moving forward, use a Zoom call. I think it's much easier to use. But, you know, it worked out and it was a learning experience for all of us. But again, I had just created my own little cheat sheet of how to log in. I took a screenshot of it and I had loaded it directly to the Facebook page. So that was it.
So cool, Amber. So cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Round of applause, please, for Amber. So good. So good. I do have a couple of questions for you, and you just answered one. So did you use this to go live in Facebook? Is that what you did? Like in Facebook room?
Yeah, so in Facebook events, they actually offer you a meeting room that's private to the Facebook event, and it goes live 1 hour before your event time. So I knew that I was getting together with the host, that she and I would be in the same room together, that everybody else would be virtual. And so we met up about an hour and a half prior. And again, I know her, so it was very easy for me to just show up and kind of set up and hang out for a bit. But we logged in almost a full hour early to try to make sure that the Wi-Fi was working and that we were connected. It also gave us an opportunity for anyone that was worried about not being able to sign in or follow the instructions on how to get in. I was there, and so I could let people in. I don't think you need a full hour for that either, but for my first event using Facebook meeting rooms, I wasn't quite sure.
You feel nervous for sure.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Could you possibly share the file for your bingo card? Was one question.
Yeah.
And you're in the Dream Crew, so you can drop it in the Dream Crew. That would be awesome. And then Andrea was asking about how long did the presentation take you?
It probably took about 30 minutes to go over the slides themselves. There was like 23 of them, so probably a minute or so per slide. But then because we incorporated bingo, I gave 5 minutes or so for them to create their bingo sheet, because while I had provided them with this, I had not provided them with the words. And I wanted to make sure that as they were writing out the different words, that they weren't putting them in the same order that they were reading them, because then everybody would have gotten bingo at the same time.
So how did you do that?
So I had shown, so what I did to create this grid here is actually from just Excel or maybe Word, I forget, where I just created a table and I put it in the middle. And then I copied the One Hope logo right in the center. This particular file is a PDF, but I have a Word doc, so it's editable. So I can delete the logo and move things around. So I can provide you with that. I may have to share it with you directly and then have you post it to the team, only because if you upload to Facebook, I don't think it lets you edit them.
Okay.
But I can certainly do that. So I had just made it so that I was doing a copy and paste of a logo I found online.
How did you make sure
so what
that
I did was,
I'm sorry, how did you make sure their words weren't all in the same places? That's the part I was missing.
Oh, yes. So when we got to the bingo break card, I had explained that we were going to, I told them at the very beginning that we would be playing bingo and that there would be prizes. And then when we got to this, I said, take either a blank sheet of paper and create a bingo sheet, or take the bingo sheet I provided in the Facebook group that you had printed and fill it in using the words you see on the screen, but do not fill them in this particular order.
Okay.
You want to add them to your board however you would like. And then because a lot of people were watching on the screen, I actually read them all out and went one by one. So wherever you'd like on your empty space, put in the word aroma. And then your next word to add is Cabernet. And it did take a little while for everybody to sort of fill it in. So we had people going in and they're like, oh, I have space left. They had to figure out which word they had been missing.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, everyone found it kind of fun. And it was an opportunity for everybody to kind of connect and to chat.
Right. And laugh and giggle and, you know, try to figure out where'd you put it? So
yeah, exactly.
I love that. I love that it's super interactive. I mean, one of the challenges that we had through these virtual tastings was how to get people involved and more interactive, right? So I love this tool. I think it's really, really smart. My question for you, and probably what I have struggled with the most in virtual tastings, and I think all of us have, is how did you move people through the ordering process? And frankly, how successful were you at that?
Yeah, so in the lead up, I had made sure that there was enough space between creating the event and announcing the day, and then having at least like 5 or 6 days before the event where every day I could post a little bit of something. So kind of a teaser about the fact that there would be a game and that there would be prizes, but also a link to the fundraising page itself, so that in the comments, when I would add the link to Facebook, I could say, make sure that when you're logging in, you see that you're shopping for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. If you have any questions, my name is Amber Dillon, and I should be shown as the host on the event. You can contact me directly. And as we went through the different tastings, people would ask, like, okay, how do I purchase that? So I would say you can open the fundraising link that's on the Facebook page, and it was in the information about the event as well. And you can search for the rosé and then apply to cart. And so some people added things as we were going through the presentation itself, but I really think most people kind of waited till the end when we got to the thank you and the combination of what was left to review. Right. And at that time, I had put my information up on the screen, and I just said, text me, call me, or stay on the line. I will keep my video on, and let's walk you through it. And so everybody had did a pretty good job of getting to the correct link. I think that was fairly easy. It was once they got to the ordering part and making sure that their cart was correct and understanding Wine Club, that we kind of walked them through. So, you know, Crystal was the host and her mom signed up for Wine Club, and so Crystal gave her a call. I was on speaker with her. We made sure that it was Crystal's name at the top, so 501c3, my name, that she had picked all of the different things. And then I really just stayed on the phone with her as she walked through the different process until she hit submit and got her confirmation. And I did the same thing with anybody else that had any questions.
What and other people were just kind of hanging out while you were doing that?
Yeah, some of the people that were in the room with us did it right from their phone.
Okay.
And so that was very easy. And they kind of announced what they had purchased and helped each other out. That was very helpful. Once Crystal had done it as the host, she helped a couple of people out. And she and I had walked through the fundraising link prior because I really wanted to make sure I was giving her an opportunity to speak about this cause and why it was important to her. And so I wanted to use her words, and I used that same paragraph that I had provided at the top of the presentation within the fundraising link itself.
Right. And
so we were able to kind of connect the dots there. So she felt very invested in what we were doing.
Good. Thank you. Kaz is mentioning that what she does is she does her presentation, she stops the share, and then she starts it back up again and walks through how to get to the landing page and how to find things. So she does that in the group, right? So I think that's super smart. Well, does anybody, I think I have all of my questions answered. Does anybody else have questions that they'd like to ask Amber before we thank her heartily and send her on her lovely evening way? She's got when you type fast, Kaz. So her question is, did you have them use the same game board, maybe with different color pens? I think what I understood, Kaz, is everybody got a blank one. And then she read the words and had them put them wherever they wanted. So I don't know, maybe ask your question.
So the previous question was, did you tell them ahead of time? I love this idea because it's super simple and fun. Did you tell them ahead of time that you were going to be doing more than one bingo game, or is it one bingo game that you're doing a little bit of, and then a little bit of, and then, so it's one bingo game?
So it was one bingo game, and I had provided them with a screenshot, because again, on Facebook in particular, you can't upload like a PDF file, which is unfortunate. If I had a bunch of email addresses, I could have just emailed them a Word doc. But I took a screenshot of the bingo card that I had created. I posted it to the event page the night before and said, you know, we're looking forward to the event tomorrow. We will be playing a bingo game. Here's the bingo sheet. If you'd like to print it yourself, have a pen and have a glass of wine ready, and we'll see you at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. And then as we started, I reminded them, grab a sheet of paper, grab your bingo sheet if you had a chance to print it, grab your pen, grab your drink. We're going to get started. And then when we got to that bingo break slide where I had all the words, I just had them write all of them in whatever order they wanted. And then we actually didn't start the game right then. We just filled out the bingo card and moved into the next tasting so we could kind of keep things moving. And then when I got to the bingo break, I only chose 5 words. So I gave just enough that someone had the potential to win, but didn't actually win yet. And I got lucky that no one won on the first round, because I would have had a lot of blank slides to get through. And we did have a backup plan. The host and I had agreed on a trivia question that was specific to her, because everyone knew her. And so I said, if we get 2 or 3 people, we'll just pick some sort of a trivia question, and you'll be responsible for choosing who wins. And so I kind of threw the ball back in her court.
I put a link in the chat for you. It's an online image converter, and it's free. So whenever you have a PDF you want to change to a JPEG, or typically that's what we do, you just go to that link. And they do documents, images, like literally everything. And like I said, it's free. So everybody grab that. I've been using it literally for years and years and years, because I'm like, I don't know how to edit a PDF. I'm sorry. And I can't upload it to Facebook. So anyway, so if that's helpful.
Lori, along that lines, is it available for on the phone, or is it just desktop? Because I have a desktop version of something I use. Do you use it on your phone?
I don't know. I never have.
I was wondering, because just today I was trying to do, or yesterday I was just trying to do one for my phone, and I was like, I go in and then they say, oh, it costs, whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up and see. One moment, please. File converter. And I'm getting it.
I could check. I'm sorry. I could.
Oh, you're totally fine. It's there. Yeah, go for it. It's
okay.
Free.
Awesome. Thank you.
File converter by online-convert.com.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. It was.
Someone asked if you can share in the Facebook meeting group, and you can. It's the same sort of screen share that you can do in any of the, like a Zoom or a GoToMeeting. It was pretty easy, and I had logged in early enough that I just double checked that I knew what I was doing before I had a bunch of people in there. Again, I don't know that I would recommend Facebook meeting groups, not because as the organizer it's difficult, but I think it's a little difficult for people to find it and get started. If they're joining as your guest, I think probably a Zoom link that you can email or give your host to email is better. And if you have your host email them a Zoom link, they can CC you, and then you have access to everyone's contact information.
We like that.
You know, Amber, I think on the Facebook room too, I don't know for you, the sound quality wasn't great on my end. I don't know how it was on yours, but Zoom, it's a lot clearer for sound. So.
Yeah, as the host, I didn't recognize any kind of issues, but we also did have people in the room with us. So I think there was probably a little feedback from us as I was presenting, but also I know there was a couple people that said we were a little hard to hear.
It's kind of choppy, and when it first started, you couldn't mute people. That's why I never went back, because I was like, I have to be able to mute people. Like, this is not going to work. So thank you.
Yeah, you definitely can't see when people are talking.
Yeah.
So on Zoom you can.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.